Thank you very much. What I want to talk about today is to explore how the artificial intelligence revolution is going to augment humans in the workplace. As a business futurist and technology advisor to companies and governments, I very often look at helping them understand how things like artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, augmented reality, and all those big major business trends we're seeing at the moment, how they're influencing their future business. One of the aspects that is very often overlooked is the impact on humans. And sometimes we get this notion that actually, will robots take all our jobs? Will we at some point become robots? What's the role of humans in this new brave world? So this is what I want to look at. And I believe that we are currently in the middle of a new intelligence revolution. So I am a regular contributor to the World Economic Forum, and their founder, Professor Klaus Schwab, talks about this new fourth industrial revolution that we are in at the moment. I would argue that artificial intelligence and this revolution around AI is has the biggest impact on society and business that we've ever seen. One of the most important technologies we all need to grapple with. So I thought I'd look a little bit at what makes machines, intelligent machines, different to humans, and how will they augment us, or how will we compete with intelligent beings of the future? And there are a few things that humans are good at. We have sensors. We have the sense of touch, the sense of sight, taste, smell, but robots can now replicate a lot of those things, intelligent robots. So we now have robots that can see. We have machine vision that allows them to understand what is on a photograph, what is in a video, what we are seeing through cameras. We now have the ability to touch. So robots can now do things that only very dexterous human beings could do in the past. Things like picking raspberries. There's now a commercial raspberry picking robot that combines machine vision and sensor technology to find where the raspberries are on a bush and pick them gently and place them in a punnet for harvest. This was simply impossible even a few years ago. We now have robots that can taste and smell, we have AIs that can be used to create new perfumes, that can give us new recipes and new taste combinations. And this gives robots this ability to do things like walk. So we can now have upright walking robots. We have robots that can read and write. We now have this ability to read text using machine learning technology, so they can understand not only what we're talking about, but even the sentiment and the emotions we are conveying in what we are saying. We now have AIs that can write. So I have a regular column in Forbes. AIs also have regular columns in Forbes. So lots of the analyst reports are now written by artificial intelligence tools. And recently, in Japan, a book was nominated for a literacy prize that was entirely written by artificial intelligence. So this is a fiction book. We now have AIs that can create poetry, that can speak through our Alexas and our voice interfaces. And what I find fascinating is that now robots can learn from experience. So we now have what we call machine learning, especially reinforcement learning. That means that a completely dumb robot can lay on the floor. We can inject a little bit of artificial intelligence into this machine, and it can learn to walk, a little bit like how humans are starting to walk. And these reinforcement mechanisms will teach the robot that those steps work, and it will start to adjust, and within 20 minutes, a robot can now start walking. And this, for me, is all pretty frightening stuff. You think, what does that mean for my job? And you think, oh, okay, we have things like creativity, right? Robots can't do that. Intelligent machines can't ever compete. One of my most fascinating examples is a robot that can now create choreography. So this is coming from a collaboration between Google and Wayne McGregor, who is one of the most innovative dance choreography teachers. But basically what he does is he comes up with amazing new dance moves and dance routines. What they've now done is they've applied machine learning algorithms to understand human movement, and they can now predict new movements, completely new movements that humans have never performed before. And they're now using this live in the studio. So when they're coming up with a new dance routine, they have a big display in the background, and these moves are now customized to individual styles of individual dancers. And this, for me, is this new machine-human collaboration where we are starting to co-create. We now have this ability, we refer to this as generative design. So in engineering, we can say, I would like to design a new motorcycle frame. I give all the principles, all the things that I would like this frame to be good at to a machine, and this machine can then design new prototypes. And I can then pick the one I like best. So we now, for the first time, have the ability of machines to create. And then you think, okay, but we have emotions, right? So we as humans, this makes us human. No other creature other than humans is able to blush, for example. So we can experience emotions. What is interesting is that this is Sophia. She was designed by Hanson Robotics. And I've had the pleasure to meet her a few times and interview her. She's a humanoid that has actually been made a citizen of Saudi Arabia. What is interesting is that Sophia can now show emotions, over 150 different types of emotions. So she can, things like joy and grief and surprise and frustration, she can express in facial expressions. We now also have this ability that machines can read our emotions. There's a whole area of research that looks at affective computing, basically teaching machines to read our emotions. And if you think about this, what are our emotions? It is basically reading our facial expressions, our body language, our tone of voice, and then understanding what emotions this portrays. And this is something we can now give to machines. They can do this in our text, in our video, but also now from our just observing us. So we now have machines that can be creative, that can express emotions. Some people believe that we will merge as creatures, so robots and humans will merge together instead of competing in the future. And I believe we are along the way, because if you think about this, we now have intelligent limb replacement. So we now have robotic arms. So if someone has lost a limb in an accident, we now can replace this with a mechanical arm that can be controlled by our mind. We now have intelligent glasses. Soon we will have intelligent contact lenses, and maybe at some point in the future, intelligent eye implants. We can now 3D print body parts. So there are lots of things that are changing where you think, actually, if this continues along this trajectory, we will actually somehow merge with machines. Others believe that we'll compete, and there will be digital beings and human beings. One of the most fascinating examples I've seen of digital beings is a digital musician, a digital artist. So this is a being called Yona that was created by Augment. And basically their argument is that nowadays, if you are a musician, it's quite hard to stay current, right? So what you need to do is you need to continuously reinvent yourself as the music taste changes. You also have a lot of pressure to be on Instagram 24 hours a day, to have a social media presence, to be a great dancer and performer. And basically what they're now doing is they're creating a digital artist, or a number of them. This is just the beginning for them. And this digital artist will watch and listen to what we are listening to on Spotify, on Apple Music, and understand the latest music trends, and then compose completely new pieces of music. It will then use a digital voice to sing, and the digital being to create dance routines. And because it's a digital being, it can perform on Instagram 24 hours a day. So this, for me, is pretty scary stuff, right? So we need to think, what does this now mean for humans? And it's sometimes useful to look at some of the professions that are being transformed at the moment. And for me, medicine is a great example. Medics we send to medical schools for 5, 6, 7 years to become trained. Then they start practicing for a number of years to become experts in certain fields. Let's look at radiologists, for example, and radiographers. This is one of the most specialized jobs in medicine, a very well-paid job at the moment. What we're seeing at the moment is that machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence robots can now do this a lot better. They can do their job because a radiologist basically looks at scans and images and looks for things like precancerous cells or anything you have to worry about. And if you are someone that looks at breast scans, for example, to look at potential breast cancer, you could sit there doing one scan after the other, after the other, after the other, trying to find patterns. Machines are extremely good at this. But what is happening at the moment is that machines would overestimate. So they would say, you probably have cancer, because they find lots of anomalies in those scans. What is interesting is that humans don't tend to overestimate this, but they will overlook things because they're sometimes tired, they're human. What is interesting is by combining those two, you actually make the result a lot more useful because you can pre-scan everything, highlight everything a radiologist needs to look at. That person can then make a very solid diagnosis without running the risk of overlooking anything. And actually, for me, this also makes the job of the radiologist a lot more human and a better job because that person won't spend hours and hours interpreting scans. That person can spend some very solid time making recommendation, making a diagnosis, and then hopefully spend the rest of their time with things humans should be doing, looking into the future, identifying the best treatment plans, working with humans to find out the best way to approach a condition. So actually my key message for today is that artificial intelligence will make our world a better place because instead of competing with machines, we should work alongside machines and actually focus on the truly human skills that we have that machines currently don't have. So we as humans, we are able to dream. We are able to come up with new ideas and actually make them happen. Machines can't do that. We have this ability to feel emotions. Machines can't do this. And we have things like love, the ability to empathize with other people, being tolerant to other people and understanding human quirkiness and diversity. We are able to communicate with other human beings through storytelling. We are able to make much better judgments at the moment, putting things into context. And as humans, we are longing for the sense of purpose and belonging, and which then helps us to motivate ourselves. So what I'm arguing for is that businesses and organizations need to spend a bit more time on this element. At the moment, there's too much time on the technology transformation, and actually not enough time on the human transformation. So what we need to do as business leaders and leaders in society is we need to make sure we address this human aspect. We reconfigure our organizations to make them more human places where humans do what humans do best alongside intelligent machines. So my prediction is that the AI revolution will make our workplaces better and more human. Thank you very much.